Good morning, friends. This is Josh Hendry with Mr. Hen's Art Skills, and I recorded a video yesterday, but after updating my Mac software, opening up OBS, my microphone wasn't working, so there was an entire 35 minutes of me talking with no audio, so I just scrapped that video. So at any rate, I am working on my homework for Graphic Novel Pro for SVS, which is the School of Visual Storytelling. The class is being taught by Jake Parker and Sean Crystal, and they're doing a great job of kind of leading our class. Of probably, I don't know the exact number, but I would guess it might be close to 100 people are going through this. So a lot of people getting their chops up for a comic book or graphic novel. Mine is the Legend of Harapan. This is the first copy. Origin, I created this years and years ago. I don't know if you can see this, but this is actually a free PDF. If you want the PDF of this, you can go to MrHen.com, download the PDF, and it was not bad for first go of it. This was one of my favorite spreads. This is Simeon leaving the temple, and he's going and jumping and jumping down, going down the mountain and everything, and just some things that I loved about it. I like the equal pacing and the frames, his thought process as he goes through. I loved the silhouetted kind of shape of him, like the profile shape. I loved the sun starting here, and by the end of it, his journey down the mountain, it had gone down in the sky. Which is just a real subtle backdrop way of letting the passage of time happen. And of course I loved him jumping from one frame to the next just to kind of pop him out of the comic a little bit. But I thought this one was a particularly effective page that I still like nearly a decade later, maybe more than a decade later. So, very interesting stuff. But if you would like this, again, it's a free PDF at MrHen.com. You just go under the products, the free products tab. Now, this is the Legend of Harapan, and this story is called Humble Beginnings. So it is talking specifically about Caden, who is our main character. We did a story outline of 7 stages, which is kind of interesting. I'm still kind of processing that because I'm familiar with the 12 stages of the hero's journey, and I've used that as kind of a framework before. But I like the 7-stage format. It simplifies certain aspects of it, but I don't want to lose parts of the 12 stages. Specifically, I guess it's the testing phase where you're sorting out who your allies and your enemies are. I think that's a really cool stage. And we're not really going into that with this, and it may be because it's a comic book medium. Maybe in comic books you get less of the relational aspect because it's more action oriented. Maybe I asked this question, but it wasn't super clear to me why the stages that were cut out, so I don't know. So I still think in terms of the 12 stages, but the format of my outline is 7 stages, so it's kind of an abridged version. And I want to have 28 pages in every one of my comics. There's a reason for that, but I'm not going to get into it. But I want to have 28 pages in each of my comics. So if we got 7 stages, that's 4 pages per stage is a good way to think about it. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 4. And so that's 1 stage. Okay, and this would be called Winter's Park probably because that's the location. And it's really hard to probably read this because it's in thumbnail format. It looks really jumbled and convoluted and everything, so I'm kind of, this is my process though. This is how I think through things. But you start right in on the action. They're playing Ringo, which is the game that they play. Caden and his team scores and wins, and then he says, I gotta go. So we see him at Legend Sports Bar. This is stage 2. Okay, and he's at Legend Sports Bar. He's the bar's going on. They've got the the TVs are on and everything. He's looking through this window, which is actually the kitchen window. He's in the back. He's kind of looking through, trying to watch some of the games on the TV there. And then he hears a yell out from the bar, Caden, we're out of glasses. And he's like, I'm on it, Captain. And then you see the work that he's surrounded by is just a pile of dishes and everything. And then he goes into announcer mode. Like all of a sudden he's in the middle of a game and says, okay, oh boy, ladies and gentlemen, Caden Thompson has stepped back into the arena. And he's like, oh yeah, Jack, you can just feel a calm wash over the crowd. The kid's got it all: speed, timing, power. So you can see he's kind of dreaming, and then we go into this final full page spread, and this is where hopefully we capture kind of the reality of where he's at. He's sort of in the back here toting trash out to the dumpster. There's puddles on the ground, there's clouds rolling in, it's a starry night, you've got the street light and these little lights, and then across the way in the distance there is what looks to be like a metropolis or a city. Viewers will come to learn that this is nowhere near the bigger cities that are further in on the main island, but this is kind of our setup for our thing. So stage one we called Winter's Park, and it's kind of his ordinary world, so to speak. He just loves playing this game, Ringo. So we'll call this stage one. Okay. And it's the ordinary world, so we'll just give it that name. Now that is the same terminology used in the 12 Stages by Joseph Campbell and Christopher Vogler. So ordinary world is pretty much the same. And if you've ever looked through the 12 Stages, you know exactly what that is. And if you've never looked through it, it's really easy. Just Google it. The 12 Stages are very easy to memorize. And if you just do a cursory reading and take it to just about any movie or story that you love, you'll be able to understand kind of the terminology and why they speak about it the way you do. Now, stage two, they put as the inciting incident. So this is kind of interesting because in the hero's journey, it's called the call to adventure. So for me, the call to adventure is just seeing this, the grass is always greener kind of place. On the other side of the water over here, there is this city that seems so far, and he's saying maybe one day. So his inciting incident is not some action-packed thing. And I don't know if I'm going to keep that, but I sort of am happy with it right now. But everything's up for, debate at this point because we're not married to anything yet. But we're getting close. We're engaged, okay? So this location is Legends Sports Bar. Okay, so those two are done. Those two thumbnail pages are done. Now what I like using marker paper. I discovered I used to love using colored pencils, and I would do like a light version and then a darker version and everything. But what I found was I can get way more expression a lot faster using the marker, and I can also shade in things. I mean, just look at the beauty of this thumbnail right here. I could never do that with just pencils. There's no way, but this marker and ink and all of it combined, and it didn't cost me much time. So I even like the idea of doing the text in white because it seems like almost a whisper, as opposed to being something clearly defined in black and white the way that a lot of the speech bubbles are. I really, really like that, and I like this overall vibe, and I can see this in its next iteration being a very powerful image with the puddles and on the gravelly sand out here, reflecting some of the light and just all of this. Very, very cool. All right, now there are elements that are missing that I had in my outline, and I may need to come back, revamp, and put those things in. But for now, I'm happy with that. I can live with that. All right, so I've just got this sheet. This is different from the one they give us in class, but it's one that helps me because I can put more of it on there and see like stage to stage how it works. So I just kind of prefer this format. And then what I do is I just slide it under my marker paper, and since my marker paper is really easy to see through, I can just use that kind of to guide me. Now what I'll do is I'll try to put the paper in the exact same spot. So I'll try and slide it down here and slide it up to the seam, and then I'll just put the date, whatever today's date is. Oh, I meant to wear my NC State hat. I think I was super excited that they won. NC State beat Carolina last night by a pretty healthy margin, the healthiest margin ever since 1962 or something like that. But in all reality, Carolina was out two starters with injuries, and so I was kind of like, yeah, Excuse me. It was a good win. Sorry. Always good to get a win. But it wasn't. It was kind of like, I think we should expect ourselves to win that game. If they don't have two of their starters, you know, that gives us a distinct advantage. And if we don't take advantage of the advantage we have, then it would be more embarrassing. So I realized that because it's a rivalry game and Carolina always downplays the rivalry, that people are really excited about it. But I'm not that excited about it, to be honest. I'm kind of like, yeah, well, play them healthy and see what the outcome is. Let's see. Because it's not really a test of who the better team is if they're not playing their best players, right? I mean, my story here, The Legend of Harapan, has the game Ringo in it. And, the dream there for Caden and countless other kids is to play in the professional Ringo League. And, he's such a talented kid. If his, even in the very first 4 pages, one of the things the kids say is your team always wins. He's like, yeah, score, we win. And then this kid's like, you always win. And that's just sort of what happens when you have that kid who's talented. They just are able to do things. I'll never forget, I was in 2nd grade and we were playing kickball in PE. And we had a weird gym. It had carpet on it. It was a basketball court, but it was a carpeted court, which is so weird to me because the ball bounces so different on carpet than it does on a real court. But at any rate, it was carpeted. I'll never forget, I'm in line and I'm about to come up and kick, and I think there were 2 outs, and one of our players had just scored, and he was like our best athlete, and I remember him saying, hey, can I take your spot in line? And I'm like, no. He's like, I promise I will get a home run, or what? Yeah, it's a home run, I guess, in kickball. He says, I promise I'll get a home run. I was like, you can't promise that. He said, I promise I will get a home run. And I said, okay, all right. And so I let him have my spot. He goes up there, and he kicks a decent kick. It wasn't phenomenal or anything, but he ran the bases. He just created a home run. Like, they threw the ball at him. He dove underneath it, right? Slides down. Run into second. They throw the ball again. He jumps over the ball this time. Every single time he went to a base, they tried to get him out, and he went all the way around and scored a home run. And there's nobody else in our class that would have been able to do that, right? Again, when I was in 4th and 5th grade, we had this kid who would score touchdowns, and they just called it the show. They just called it his show, right? I won't say his name online, but it was just his show, and that's what we called it. And so we played football against this team, and every single time we played him, he would score somewhere between 5 and 7 touchdowns because he was just that gifted, right? So the idea that you're going to play a team and they don't have their most gifted players, and you're going to call that a win, like a really huge celebration, is a little bit silly to me. Okay, here we are. We're in stage 3 now. Stage 3. All right, stage 3. Now, this is the anti-theme reinforcement. This is interesting. Anti-theme reinforcement. Now, this is totally not a part of the hero's journey, even though there is some connection to it. So I'm just going to leave it like that. And this is at Caden's house. Okay. All right. So it's really interesting because I left out a whole lot of information, and I wonder if that's going to come back to bite me here, because I wanted him to ride home and kind of wreck. So maybe I'll do that here, because that was really, it wasn't the inciting incident, but it was part of the last section. So maybe I'll have him leaving Legends, maybe. So this is Legends. And Legends is like a sports bar, but it's like, it's going to be made out of some kind of flotsam or something. I got to figure that out before we get too far into this, because I want that building to be really well decided what it looks like. But at any rate, So he's going to be kind of, I think, coming like this. So, I don't know. Maybe we put an anchor out here or something. I have no idea. I thought about having like a big old ship's anchor out front of Legends because they're out on the island, and you know, a lot of times that's a cool representation of shipwrecks and stuff like that. So, and it also gives you the sense that this is an anchored place for him, right? It's a place that kind of keeps him grounded, which is sort of the symbol for work, right? When you're working hard and you're doing hard work, you feel more grounded, you feel more anchored, you feel more solid. So we've got the symbolism coming in, and this is part of his character, right? He's working to support his mom and his younger sister, and you know, those are pretty grown-up, anchored things to do, especially for a young teen like him. I think he's going to be about 13 when we pick up the story, something like that. Young teen. So here he is. He's going to be riding his bicycle home. So a lot of times I like using the marker because you can just silhouette sort of what you're thinking, and you don't have to get into the details. And if you get the silhouette interesting enough, you know, that really goes a long way to communicating the rest. You can kind of fill in what you need from there. I could tell I'm going to get a lot better at drawing bicycles and motorcycles while I'm doing this comic book, because that's a main part of, at least early on in the story, how Caden's going to get around. So, alright, so he's scooting away from Legends. He's going home. Now, need some panels. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to panel it 1, 2, 3. And the reason why is I want to have this feeling of increased speed going down a hill. So these frames now are giving this, and then I'm going to have him kind of splat. So this is our first time seeing him not do so great. Okay, so he's going to be jackknifed here. So the tires go sideways, handlebars sideways, and he's like, ah! And we're going to make him come out of the screen a little bit. So he's kind of foreshortened. Maybe the hands are going to be up like this, or maybe, wah! Okay. And then, so we'll put like a crack in the pavement or something like that. But this is him, and it's going to cause his tire to go flat. So he flips out over his bike. This is not a great drawing, but maybe I can get it there by using the black. So the marker kind of gets enough of the idea on the page without being too dark, and it does it so fast and efficiently. This is what I'm talking about why I've sort of grown to like this for the ideation phase of the comic. I really have come to appreciate what it allows me to do very quickly. So, and this is not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. It's not meant to be. It's meant to be placeholder stuff, like and then yeah, so he's flying over his bike. He's gonna splat down here. Maybe we'll do a splat. I want to give the feeling like he is really humming down the hill. So yeah. Maybe he's up at the top of the hill right here. The pathway just comes straight down like this. Hopefully that makes sense. I don't know. Maybe it doesn't. But he's up there on the top of the hill. He's flying down. He smacks into this. He comes flying over the handlebars. And then it's like a splat. Let me get his face. Maybe his... Oh, yeah, the eyes. Oh, bam. Oh, the eyebrows. Oh, the scowl. Oh, the nose and the face is splat on the ground. Right? Ugh. 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 I don't know how you spell ugh. I gotta look at that. Ugh. Okay. Yeah, okay, so that's good. Now we need the splat. And how's a splat? Splat. That means the top is skinnier and then the splat should be heavier down at the bottom, right? Does that make sense to you? It makes sense to me. Splat. That splat. That hits heavier down at the bottom of the word. I don't know if that makes sense. That's just how I visualize it. Like if you're doing a splat, you want them to bottom out and hit smack bottom down at the bottom. So we want that to be splat. I went spat. Why did I do spat? Because I'm talking and not thinking splat. Let's do splat. Splat. Yeah, splat. That is so stupid. Oh my gosh. Luckily this is a thumbnail. Everything is editable, right? The other thing I love about marker at this stage is I can go around speech bubbles and people and just gray it out, and it punches the speech bubble and the person up. Like just the gray in the background brings them into the forefront just a little bit more. And yeah, let's give them some hard asphalt to splat on. Splat. Okay. Not my favorite, but that's okay. Hopefully we get the point here. I forgot the rain is starting to come down. So we got a little bit of rain. This is always fun when you add rain and elements to a story. And you can increase it over time. So like have it like sprinkling here. Have it like a good downpour happening here. Alright? And then torrential downpour here. Just like splash, splash, splash. And then, you know, we'll keep this splatting rain, splat, 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 splat. You know, all of this will be splat. Splish, splat. Alright, So that's good. Yep, this little dude up here. So just be a silhouette of him on his bike up at the top of the hill. Top of the hill. There we go. Alright, so there is one frame. Boom. Here is one frame. We want his arms to be able to come out of this frame because he's kind of flying out of the frame here. So, and I'll probably push this a little bit more in the final one. Just the idea of him coming out of that frame. And I might even put his head right here in front of the frame so we really get that hardcore splat. In fact, that definitely looks way better because it's like he's coming into the foreground, smacking the ground. So there you go. That's a page. Not bad. All right, so now he's going to end up at home. So our next section, and I like working in sections of 3. It just makes me, it gives me a good starting point, and then I can build off of that. If I want to break it up with different framing from there, I can. In fact, I could even push this guy. No, I don't know. I kind of like this as your establishing shot, so we'll see. Yeah, we definitely want to get some dark in here around the building. Yeah, definitely get some dark in here. It's gray, it's stormy. And definitely some darkness around him so he jumps out of the scene a little bit more. Yeah. Okay. Now, he's going to be walking home. This is Caden's house, right? So, it's going to be some old school, kind of like almost like a bus stop, so to speak. And then the house. So it's got some normal vibe to it, but then it's got some flotsam kind of vibe to it also. Street light over here that will be casting a little bit of a glow. And you're going to see him carrying his bike. Because he's kind of hurt. Alright. So that's sort of what we got going on there. He's sort of holding his bike up on his shoulder. I don't know if you ever carried a bike that way, but when you get a flat, sometimes that's what you do. So, and he's not feeling so hot right now. The rain is pouring down. So we'll get that in there in just a second. He's going to have this old school kind of cool looking like a subway train kind of looking front to the house, like the porch. Again, lots of flotsam and jetsam. Their houses are salvaged from things that have shipwrecked on the island, but they also get a unique kind of shipwreck. Like they will get things that most islands probably would never see, just as a result of how the storms on the island happen. They get very significant storms where they are in a pretty regular, almost systematic format. So that's part of the mystery of what's going on the island, is just this idea that storms happen on a regular, almost consistent, almost like clockwork. So the residents don't think very much of it, but the reader probably will go, why in the world are there storms every, I don't know how often they're going to be yet, but how come there's storms every single week that happen at the same time? And I haven't really decided if they're going to happen at the exact same time or if it's going to be a little more random. I'm thinking it is going to be at the same time. I'm thinking that that's probably the bestest way to kind of tell the story. But we'll see. Let's see if we can get away with something. Let's do dark up at the top, because it is nighttime, but it's also raining, so we got some things we're gonna have to communicate here. See if we can get this Definitely want the house to look warm and inviting. So we'll keep the lights on. He right now is on the outside of the house, so he's going to be approaching this, and he's injured, but he's not going to want mom to know he's injured, because that would just bring more concern for her, and he's not trying to make mom afraid or feel like he can't handle something. That's just not in his makeup. That's not in his DNA, man. So, alright, so now maybe we do this. We darken up the house, but we keep the lights on. I think that's going to give us the nicest kind of vibe. Alright, and that's the ground, and he can also have his own bit of color. He can also kind of be darkened out here. Now there is a street light, so I may have to pop some light from there, which is fine. Okay, so there, it looks like it's kind of nice and glowing in the house. Let's see what a little bit of rain might look like coming down. Yeah, that's not too bad. Yeah, maybe put some puddles in here. There we go. Then maybe we put a little bit of shadow for him. A little reflection of him. Alright, so there we go. I like that. Alright, so he's showing up home. Kind of hurt with his bike on his back. I don't know if this is reading as the bike on his back yet. Let's get the tires on this side of him. Get the seat in the air. Get the handlebars kind of cranked out. Now you see he's carrying his bike. So, alright, now here's the outline. So let's see what we get here. Caden arrives home drenched and in pain, but hides it from his mom, Annie. Annie's running around the house with a broom yelling. That's right. I need her to be yelling. Okay, so she's going to be yelling, and he gets home. Die! I think that's how you spell die. D-Y-E is dying clothes. D-I-E is dying like you die. Refers to irreversible cessation of all biological functions. Yes, die. That is what Annie wants to happen. She is chasing mice around the house. So, and that's kind of a nice contrast, right? He comes home from the rain, having wrecked his bike. And you got this hilarious die coming out of his house. This really does not read in thumbnail, and I'm taking way too long for this. I can already hear my teachers going, "You're not supposed to be doing the artwork yet." You can't stop me. All right, so okay, so I have this picture in my mind of her freaking out in this panel, like this whole panel. So this would be the interior of the house, and I have this idea of him sort of kind of stepping in, like with a sort of a look like so I only have so many panels to tell this story, but I picture them having almost like a countertop or something in the house, and have her, she's going to be a little bit smaller. She's going to be swinging a broom, so got a broom like so, swinging a broom. Oh, that's what he can pick up later is the broom, not a cross. Oh my goodness, yes. So a cross is like a lacrosse stick, and it comes in later in the story. I was going to have him grab a lacrosse stick, but he's a land player, and the land players don't really use lacrosse sticks, I don't think. But he could pick up the broom that's being used by his mom to kill mice, And that is a really cool kind of thing. Alright, so now she's saying, die, die, vermin. Okay, so he is outside in the rain. Now he's inside. His hair is kind of unkempt and wet because he's been riding. So we'll communicate that better according to his hairstyle later. But right now, we just want him to kind of be like, Mom, you okay? All right. So I think that, I think that does that much. Now, again, I'm gonna use the gray to go around. I wonder. I feel like there needs to be something else here, but for now we're just gonna leave it blank because it. Hopefully this is enough to get the idea across. And I may end up breaking this into frames, but I think I'm happy with a bump, 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 like a 3-beat set. I think because I do still have 2 pages to work with. So if I need to, hopefully I don't know. We'll see if this is pacing well or not. But die, vermin. Okay, and so there we go. She's got countertop, table, whatever that is. Maybe we've got a little mouse running. Then we at least know what she's swinging at. So we got a little mouse running off the table. Maybe we got another one dropping down here. I don't know. I don't know. But I want it to look like Caden is definitely in front of the action, so I got to be kind of careful not to. And I want this to be in the background too. I don't want that to be. Yeah. We can make this darker because mice will hide in the dark, so maybe they're jumping off the table and getting into the dark, and maybe that all makes sense. Okay. Keep her broom nice and bright. There we go. Okay, so we got this good zigzag happening here. All right, die, vermin, die. So maybe we do put the jar lid over here. So he's going to have a digital kind of series of jars. So maybe these are fitting kind of in the foreground here where people don't know exactly what they are, but they're there grabbing some visual attention because that's where he's heading to. So this is kind of in the foreground. I could probably do a better way of layering that so that the jars maybe are, I don't know, maybe that's good, but we'll get into that later. Okay, so now we're going to have Caden kind of more full screen. He's going to kind of put his hand up with some sort of device, or maybe it's his watch. Maybe it'll be his watch. I don't know. He's going to have some sort of device that will calculate how much money he made. We've got these 2 jars that are digital jars. We got bike or bills. Okay, so this lid stays closed. Okay. And this one is open. So we're getting the idea that this ain't gonna happen for you, buddy. You aren't gonna make it. You don't have the money. You don't have the means. We want it to be a kind of a obvious struggle, financially speaking, for the kid. Okay. Okay. I think that's good. As far as that goes, let's go ahead and gray it out around him. And we could put Annie in the background. I don't know how important that is yet. She will still, we could still just have speech bubbles out there. Or say, I'm so sick of these mice. Something like that. So. Yeah. Okay, so our audience is going to pick up on that, no problem. This is going to be very easy for them to get all of this information. Hopefully I'm not beating them over the head with it. Hopefully it's in good measure to the introduction of the story, but I want the audience to get their bearings in the story, but also to feel like there's a lot to be discovered. So I want it to be a mix of them feeling like they got a good handle on what's going on with enough mystery to keep them intrigued about what they might discover if they keep reading. So I don't want to, sometimes you can over describe or over tell the story. I don't want to do that. So but you get the idea that he's dreaming, you get the idea that he's really good at riding. This is pretty interesting that he would wipe out when he's such a good bike rider. So I don't know if I'm answering that question in this scene yet or not. Maybe I do create a panel where he says stupid worn out tires or something like that. Yeah. And then she's saying, I'm so sick of these mice. And I kind of like it grayed out a little bit where it's not as bright. Like her screaming is obviously very much the forefront. But now as he's putting this in here, he's kind of drowning out the sound of the real world and going back into his frustration with just, is this dream, could it ever possibly happen? So, all right, so we got 2 pages knocked out here. All right, so we get 2 more. Let's see. Annie continues about the mice. Caden's younger sister Becca pipes up. Maybe we could get a cat. Caden says, maybe we could get a cat. That would solve the mice problem. Becca, can we, Mom? Can we? And Annie's going to say, we barely feed ourselves and you want a pet. Becca looks downcast. Caden kneels down and looks at Becca. One day I'm going to be a pro player and you can have 100 cats. Annie says, if you're a pro player, we won't need a cat to keep mice away. We just know they didn't belong in our house. Then Caden and Becca laugh and fall into a mimicking dialogue. Caden says to Becca, hello, ma'am. I'm Mr. Mouse. Can I come in? Becca, I'm sorry, Mr. Mouse. I think you have the wrong house. Caden, I am sorry, ma'am. I have made a most egregious error. And then they're all going to start laughing. Like Annie will start chuckling, Becca starts giggling. Caden says, "One day we will live on No Mouse Mountain, far away from all vermin." And they laugh together. Okay, so that's going to be the end where they're all laughing together. So I'm going to go ahead. Again, I always like to break it up in threes. Maybe that's a bad habit, but it just helps me think about it. Where he's saying, "One day," so he's going to be sitting here. Like so, like he's victorious, kind of mimicking his 114 on his jersey, lifting his head held high, and he's dreaming, "One day we're going to live on No Mouse Mountain, free from all vermin." And this is the idea of the dream, that if you have enough money, you have enough resources, that the mouses will never come to you. They'll just know to stay away, right? This is the delusion. This is the belief. This is the anti-theme, right? So that's the conclusion. I have Annie here holding Becca. Becca's shorter, looking up to her brother. Mom is okay, and so one day we'll live on No Mouse Mountain, far away from all vermin. Okay. One day we will live on No Mouse Mountain. Okay. So this is what he believes. Something like that. Okay. So here's Annie. Yeah, Caden, that sounds great. What a great idea, Caden. Got her arm around Annie. Annie's looking up. She's smiling. Doesn't that sound amazing? Yeah. All right, there we go. Cool. And Caden is proud. He is going to solve the problem. All right. Cool. Okay. So all of that is good and happy. That's how we want to end it. So now we need the beats in between. So I'm probably running out of time. I'm getting close. Yeah, I got maybe 10 more minutes. So I'll kick this a little bit longer and see if I can come up with another panel. But this has been a good little session. I think once I do this enough times, like on my 20th comic, I will probably be way faster than I am right now, at least at this stage in the game. But I'm happy with my progress. I'm happy with where it's heading. I feel like it's starting to come together and look good and look real. So that makes me happy, and I definitely know from doing illustration projects that from this step to the next step, there will be a huge leap forward in storytelling, the kind of detail. And I usually do, I don't know what they're going to have us do for our class, but I usually do this round, another mock-up with some color in it, and then I go into the final. But we may do something completely different in the class. I don't know. But I like that for my process because it's almost like sculpting. First thing you do is just get the basic shape right. Then you put the big chunks like the nose and the ears and the eyes and all that in the right place. And then you do that final like detail pass. And you can do that multiple times. But I think for this the more refined stuff happens once you get digital. But actually producing the artwork, then the polishing in digital with the word bubbles and all of that stuff, and really give it the nice finished thing. Okay, so from one day we will live on Mouse Mountain to he's stuck. Annie continues about the mice. Becca pipes up. Maybe we could get a cat. Caden, maybe we should get a cat. That would solve the mice problem. Becca, can we? Mom, can we? We can barely feed ourselves. And you want... Yeah, so he's going to kneel down at some point here. Okay, so this is going to be their funny conversation back and forth. So, if you're a pro player, we won't need... She's going to say if you were a pro player, we wouldn't need that. Maybe it's going to look like this. Let's see. Hello, ma'am. I'm Mr. Mouse. Can I come in? Okay, this is where Caden's going to kneel down and look at her. So he's kind of kneeling down here. This may end up getting flip-flopped. I don't know, but that's fine. So he's kneeling down like that, saying one day I'm going to be a pro player. You can have 100 cats. So again, we have the one day and the one day. One day. And you can have 100 cats. All right, so there's that. Okay, so mom will say up here, if you're a pro player. Yeah, I kind of flipped the characters, which you're not supposed to do, so I'm going to have to figure that out. Like, Caden definitely should stay on the same side, so, but those are the kind of mistakes that I can live with at this point. But this is where Annie says, kind of slyly, like a little bit sarcastically, oh, maybe she slides over here. Maybe that would be better. And Caden is here. He's going to be about her height, maybe slightly taller. She's going to be about here. hair like this, maybe tucked behind her ear, maybe, depending on if we want her to feel businessy or not. And maybe she's holding the broom. I don't know. Maybe the broom is there in her hand or something. Yep, so we're going to have to go around her. And there's Caden standing there. Okay. I know that looks a hot mess right now, but that's all right. We'll fix it. Okay. Alright, so she says if you're a pro player, we won't need a cat. Okay. We wouldn't need a cat. Okay. There it is. Boom, boom. How are we doing on time? Yeah, I'm going to have to wrap this up, unfortunately. So I was hoping to get 4 pages done today. We got probably close to 3 pages done. We definitely got 2 solid, and we're really far along on a 3rd page. Yeah, that makes up about a 1/3. So we got 3 pages done. Not bad. I mean, you can only do so much in the time you have, so I'm glad I finally got my booty up here. So sorry about yesterday and not checking the audio first. But I know it's going now. I can see it on my screen, so lesson learned, hopefully. Okay. So yeah, and I'm going to go ahead and gray this out too, so I at least have that much done, because that's pretty easy to do in a small amount of time. Yeah. Again, I bet there's a lot better way to tell the story, but I don't know it. So we're going to roll with what we got. That's the one thing that keeps getting reiterated is I'm such a perfectionist, and really the point is to get it out the door. Get the story told. Don't feel like it's so precious that you can't release it to the world. You just do the best you can. Nothing's ever perfect. So that's been the hardest part for me, is pushing through when I want to think more. But sometimes that thinking is really truly procrastination. It doesn't feel like it, but it's really just holding back the story. And so this is part of learning how to be an illustrator and an artist that can produce the kind of work that I want to see out there. So once again, thank you so much for joining me today. We are working our way through these pages to get them due. They're technically due tomorrow, but then I also have class tonight for my teaching licensure. So there's no shortage of things to do. But thank you so much for joining me, and as always, have a great day.